Meghan Markle as previously having been a, quote, yacht girl, there have been more revelations going viral from the past. And I want to show you this.
She was a yacht girl. That's right. It's mentioned in the book. Meghan used to entertain as a yacht girl.
Harry, who's that standing next to the Queen? Is that a servant? That's what Harry wrote in his book Spare. How stupid is this man that he actually believes it? Or is it that he wanted to believe it?
Prince Andrew just got arrested 2 days ago. The once powerful royal of Britain, stripped of his titles and reputation, is now facing serious trouble.
Britain's former Prince Andrew.
The reports are that Prince Andrew, the former Prince Andrew, has been arrested.
His phones have been snatched up by investigators. Every single computer he owns is being torn apart for clues, and all his private documents. Yep, they're locked away in an evidence room somewhere deep in England right now, guarded and waiting to reveal the truth.
Meghan, this is historic. There has not been a crisis like this in 90 years.
And somewhere out in Montecito, California, there's a woman losing her mind right now. She spent the last 8 years doing everything she could to bury her messy pre-Roe past, covering tracks, silencing whispers, and pretending it never happened. But now, the one man who knows every secret, every rumor, and every hidden truth about her is sitting across from a detective, and he's got nothing left to lose.
Whoa, okay. The House and Habit bombshell investigation into Meghan Markle is close to dropping.
This isn't really about Prince Andrew anymore. It's way bigger than that. This is about what Andrew knows about Meghan Markle, the kind of stuff that could shake up everything. And believe it or not, this story started long before the world ever knew the name Duchess of Sussex, back when secrets were traded behind closed doors and reputations were built on silence.
A man called Kevin Blatt. Now, he is a celebrity tape broker, ladies, where he describes a 2018 call from a woman claiming to possess a 4-year-old tape of a Meghan who is about to marry a prince.
Her name is Meghan, and she's about to marry a prince in England.
No.
What?
Yeah, this story's not true, too.
It is true. I believe this is Meghan.
Everyone already knows Prince Andrew got arrested. Every news channel's been looping it non-stop. But here's the real part that actually matters, way more than the handcuffs. When the police roll in with a search warrant, they don't just take a peek around, they scoop up everything. We're talking hard drives, laptops, phones, USB sticks, filing cabinets, anything that could hold the tiniest piece of data. Nothing gets left behind.
This is Karina Shuliak, Epstein's girlfriend.
And the only times she traveled and went anywhere was with him. And guess who's on the other end with her Panama hat?
They hit 2 of his properties, one in Windsor and another in Norfolk. That means right now, somewhere in an evidence room sits a mountain of Prince Andrew's private world. We're talking decades worth of personal communications, names, numbers, photos, travel records, guest lists, everything. Every person he mingled with, every elite circle he moved through, every secret event he attended, all of it boxed up and sitting on a detective's desk, just waiting to be cracked open. The arrest might be a legal issue on paper, but what's hidden inside those files? That's the real story.
We really never thought we'd see anything like this. There are currently 2 teams of police on the King's estate, searching the King's property.
Charges like misconduct in public office and mishandling confidential documents. Yeah, those will all play out in court soon enough. But the seizure of evidence, that's a whole different beast. Once investigators get their hands on seized material, there are no limits. They tug on one thread and suddenly the whole web unravels. Every private chat Andrew ever had, every detail about his social life, his powerful friends, his exclusive guests, boom, it's all open to scrutiny now. And if your name just happens to pop up in those files, tied to events you've spent years trying to erase from existence, forget calling your lawyer. You might as well pray for a miracle.
I suddenly think, this guy, Andrew, what he's done to this family is absolutely appalling, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Way before Meghan Markle ever walked down that royal aisle at Windsor Castle, she was living in a totally different world. A world far from crowns and castles, one filled with whispers, ambition, and secrets that no one in the palace ever expected to resurface.
And I wonder if Prince Andrew's going to come out and say, hey, Harry, I did your wife quite a few times on yachts before you got...
Hollywood was never kind to outsiders, and Meghan knew that better than anyone. She hustled through bit parts on TV shows and posed at red carpet charity events, all while quietly building a powerful network behind the scenes. But this wasn't the kind of network you make at casting calls. It was formed at private dinners, inside exclusive members-only clubs, and according to long-whispered reports that have floated around for years, even on luxurious yachts, not your average fishing boats.
She'd been a deal or no deal girl. She was calling herself a model, and she was starring in a show Suits. She used to charge almost $30,000 per trip, which is why she was making good money. It wasn't on Suits, it was on her yachting trips.
We're talking about the kind of yachts that burn through more money in a single weekend than most people make in an entire year. The ones anchored off the glittering Mediterranean coast where the water shines and the secrets run deep. On board were billionaires, top-tier financiers, and the kind of powerful faces that never show up on any official guest list because their presence is meant to stay invisible.
Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person, ready for anything.
Reports unconfirmed but impossible to ignore have claimed that Meghan once attended some of those high-end yacht gatherings during her pre-royal days. These weren't your average Hollywood mixers, they were private, invitation-only events where deals weren't sealed with business cards but with favors, where reputations weren't built on talent alone but on who you knew and how close you could get. And in those circles, the line between networking, socializing, and something far murkier wasn't always easy to see. Now, things start to look a whole lot more complicated.
And here we have Andrew, with whom looks like Marcus Anderson. This is in 2001, when Meghan Markle would have allegedly been on third year. Meghan Markle hardly spent any time at Northwestern University.
Independent investigators have been chasing this story for nearly a decade, quietly collecting every scrap of information they could find. One insider who's been deep in the research dropped a line that's impossible to forget. "Scorpions don't sleep. They plot, sometimes for years." That chilling quote says it all. The idea is that every detail of Meghan's pre-royal connections has been carefully pieced together over time, like a puzzle built in secret, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And if you're wondering what that moment might be, picture this: a royal prince sitting in custody, with every bit of his digital life locked inside police evidence files. That's not coincidence, that's timing.
Many things in Meghan's past, I think, are patchy at best. And she is going to be worried about this because, again, the mainstream media have not reported on the fact Meghan Markle was friends with Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend.
One name that keeps popping up again and again in these whispered conversations is Ron Burkle, a billionaire investor with serious connections. He was even photographed beside Meghan at the grand opening of a Soho House location in Istanbul back in 2015. Investigators keep circling back to that event, calling it a major turning point, a crossroads where Hollywood's glitzy networking scene brushed up against a much darker, more secretive social circle. Burkle's name hasn't just appeared once, either. It's shown up in multiple investigations, some of which overlap in deeply uncomfortable ways with the very same elite networks that eventually pulled Prince Andrew into scandal.
Jessica Reed-Krause writes, "I have all the scrubbed info. Soho, Epstein connections, now that is clearly a reference to Soho House. Photos and mistreated staff as meaning anonymous sources detailing what it's like to work for her."
One sharp-eyed observer noticed something strange about Ron Burkle no matter the year or the event. He was always photographed wearing the exact same outfit. Weird, right? The theory floating around is that it made it almost impossible to tell when or where certain photos were taken. Was that paranoia or careful planning? Well, that depends on how much faith you've got in the people who were really inside those rooms. And then comes the question that keeps everyone guessing. How does a working actress from a cable show in Toronto suddenly find herself at exclusive gatherings where the entry fee starts in the 7 figures? Connections like that don't just fall from the sky. They're curated, they're planned, and they're heavily facilitated. According to one investigator who spent years dissecting these social webs, Meghan wasn't just showing up at these high-end events, she was reportedly being introduced to very specific people by very specific insiders. It paints a picture that feels less like coincidence and more like design.
Sarah Ferguson attended Tom Inskip's wedding in Jamaica in 2017. Meghan Markle was flown in private plane, allegedly belonging to Ron Burkle. Harry flew economy plus from the United Kingdom to Jamaica. And Fergie, Eugenie, and allegedly Andrew were at that wedding.
Whether those introductions tied directly into the same powerful network Prince Andrew was mixed up in is still unproven, but the overlap in names, locations, and timelines is way too suspicious to shrug off as random chance. Yet here's the real question that almost no one dares to ask. If investigators have been quietly piecing this puzzle together for 8 years, and respected journalists are now talking about it openly on camera, then why hasn't a single major outlet touched the story? What's keeping them silent? There was one person who tried to make sure the world couldn't ignore it: Virginia Giuffre. She was the woman at the heart of the case that pushed Andrew into paying a £12 million settlement. She was exploited as a teenager by powerful men and spent years fighting tooth and nail through the courts just to have her voice heard. Her bravery cracked open doors others tried to keep locked, but some truths still haven't seen the light.
You know, this is what Meghan has been doing. She's a piece of Klingon, you know, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And because she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcomed in.
In 2025, at just 41 years old, Virginia Giuffre passed away, leaving behind a legacy that still echoes today. After Prince Andrew's arrest, her family and siblings released an emotional statement saying their broken hearts finally felt a little lighter. They said he was never a prince. They reminded the world that Virginia fought not for fame, but for survivors everywhere. And with tears and pride, they thanked the police for showing the world that no one, absolutely no one, is above the law, not even royalty.
The Virginia Giuffre book, Prince Andrew believed it was his birthright to have sex with me. It's a horrible, horrible quote. It shows just how entitled this man really was to these things.
But here's the detail the mainstream media somehow never followed up on. Back in December 2021, Virginia Giuffre's attorney David Boies told the Daily Beast that his team was actually considering calling Meghan Markle to testify as a witness in the civil case against Prince Andrew. That revelation barely made a ripple, but it should have. His reasoning was crystal clear. Meghan lived in the US, which made the legal process easier. Plus, she had spent time around Andrew as part of the royal family and could have witnessed his behavior firsthand, or at least heard conversations about it. And according to Boies, he believed Meghan could be relied on to tell the truth no matter how uncomfortable it might get.
And then here's the mic drop, Lauren. A picture of Virginia Giuffre, the late Virginia Giuffre, as a much younger woman, with the words, "And maybe it will make sense now, why VG," clearly a reference to Virginia Giuffre, originally wanted Meghan to testify at her trial.
He went as far as calling Meghan a close associate of Prince Andrew, someone who, in his view, could have been in the right place to see or hear things that really mattered. Boies even considered deposing Sarah Ferguson and Prince Charles too, showing just how deep he was willing to go. Now, Boies was speaking about Meghan strictly as a family witness, someone who entered Andrew's orbit through her marriage to Prince Harry, but the case got settled before any depositions could actually happen. Still, here's the part that suddenly feels incredibly relevant today. In a legal context, Boies specifically used the phrase close associate when referring to Meghan. At the time, no one thought twice about what that relationship actually meant before she ever became a royal. Nobody stopped to ask how close that connection really was or when exactly it began.
Something that Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, David Boies, had previously gone public to the Daily Beast about. So wow, I have been in contact with Jessica Reed-Krause for some time. I have been waiting for her to drop this investigation so desperately.
The legal team wanted to know exactly what Meghan might have known, but that question was never answered. It just vanished, like it never existed. And that silence, it speaks volumes. Because when an attorney involved in one of the most high-profile legal battles in modern history publicly names you as a potential witness and the media doesn't chase it, your reps stay quiet, and the entire thing just fades away. That's not normal at all. In any other situation, that kind of revelation would dominate front pages for days, maybe weeks. But when it came to Meghan, the headlines barely lasted 24 hours before the world simply moved on. So the real question everyone should be asking is why? Why did such a massive lead disappear without a trace?
Evidently, this is an investigation that has spanned many, many years. She's very detailed and forensic. So I think Meghan Markle will be panicking because at the end of the day, Dan, things don't make sense with Meghan Markle. That's a fact.
The digging into Meghan's pre-royal connections didn't suddenly begin after Prince Andrew's arrest. It actually started about 8 years ago. That's right around the time Meghan first stepped into the spotlight as Harry's new partner. Since then, multiple independent investigators and researchers have been quietly piecing together a detailed timeline, tracking travel dates, event appearances, and secret meetups that never hit the headlines. They've even analyzed old social media posts from accounts that have long been wiped clean and studied photos that only circulate inside private investigative circles, images that somehow never make it into the public eye or mainstream media. Something about that silence feels just a little too deliberate.
The Yacht girl. Oh my God. Ghislaine Maxwell spoke. She said so. Virginia Roberts spoke. They both talked about Meghan Markle, but the world chose to ignore it. And even now, with these pictures out in the public domain, the press still refuses to expose Meghan Markle.
One researcher who's been deep inside this investigation called it the most detailed private probe into a public figure's past she's ever seen in her entire career. The findings include photos allegedly snapped at exclusive Soho House events, guest lists from lavish Mediterranean yacht gatherings, and a paper trail that seems to link Hollywood-style networking to something far more unsettling. Inside those investigative circles, one phrase keeps coming up again and again: yacht girl. And it doesn't just mean attending fancy parties at sea. It's said to describe a particular position inside elite social circles, one built on introductions, access, and sometimes quiet exchanges that come with a price tag. Now, are these claims confirmed? No, and that needs to be said clearly. But what's chilling is that these stories are no longer coming from random anonymous accounts. They're coming from people who've spent years digging into the truth.
But this is a woman who drops truth bombs and who always keeps the receipts. And for some time, she has been promising major revelations to come on Meghan Markle, on Meghan Markle's past. And what we've seen overnight, Lauren, in a series of Instagram stories which precede what the investigation will reveal is quite something.
When people with real sources, legal backing, and professional reputations start talking openly about a story they've been quietly building for years, it usually means one thing: the moment of truth has arrived. It means the evidence can no longer be brushed off or buried. And now, with Prince Andrew's arrest and everything it's about to drag out of the shadows, that moment may have finally come crashing into the open. Because here's what changed on February 19th before the arrest. Meghan's past was just rumor, whispered between journalists and investigators. But after the arrest, it's potentially evidence. Whatever was saved on Andrew's phones, his computers, his encrypted messages, every name in his contacts, every private conversation, every photo and exchange has now been seized by Thames Valley Police. And while detectives are officially investigating misconduct in public office, the truth is that seized material doesn't come with a filter. Once it's in their hands, everything becomes part of the record. Every file, every name, every connection.
Because there have been so many questions about her past for some time, so many suggestions. Was she operating as a yacht girl? How was she making her money? How was she traveling around the world? Maybe we're going to get some of those answers from House and Habits.
There's a pattern linking Sarah Ferguson and Meghan Markle that almost no one's taken the time to fully map out, and that connection speaks louder than any quote ever could. It's subtle, it's powerful, and it hints at a shared history that might reveal way more than the public has ever been told.
20 years ago, that woman would not be able to marry a working member of the British royal family. Even though she's an actress, even though she's playing a role, that is just beneath the British royal family.
Back in 2019, Fergie openly praised Meghan in an interview with Vogue Arabia. She said she could relate to her, even called her modern and fabulous, admitting she'd once been in Meghan's shoes herself. That was Fergie publicly stepping up, putting her name behind the newest royal family member, showing solidarity in front of the whole world. But fast forward to 2023, and something had clearly shifted. When The Telegraph asked Fergie directly about Meghan, her response wasn't warm, it was downright odd. Something in her tone had changed, and people couldn't help but wonder what happened between those 2 years that made her pull back so sharply.
Prince Harry really seems fired up about is this incident where he allegedly punches Prince Andrew at a family gathering because he overhears something Prince Andrew said behind his back. This is unrelated to Meghan Markle, and I think that I've seen that get mixed up a couple of times.
Yes, it has. That's one of the problems.
Yeah,
because confuse the two dates.
She said, and this is word for word, "I don't really know Meghan. I haven't really met her." That's a shocking thing to say about someone you personally taught how to curtsy before she met the Queen. Even Prince Harry confirmed that moment himself in Spare. He described how Fergie stepped outside at Royal Lodge, demonstrated the proper royal curtsy, and Meghan copied her every move. They were face to face, talking, sharing a key moment right before one of the most important introductions of Meghan's entire life. And yet, just 4 years later, Fergie suddenly acted like it barely happened, as if that connection never existed at all. That kind of turnaround from saying I relate to her to I don't really know her doesn't just happen by accident. It's the part of this whole story that barely gets any attention, but it should, because people don't go out of their way to distance themselves from someone for no reason, especially not when that person is Meghan Markle, one of the most watched women on the planet.
Everything happened because of Fergie. Meghan Markle was introduced by Sarah Ferguson to Prince Harry.
Something major shifted between 2019 and 2023. Something that made Fergie decide that being publicly linked to Meghan Markle was no longer a label she wanted attached to her name. And now look where Fergie stands today. She's reportedly been offered six-figure deals for a no-holds-barred tell-all interview, and palace insiders are said to be terrified. Word is they're afraid she might finally go rogue. One insider even told The Sun there's a real danger that Fergie could say things that would cause serious embarrassment for the king and other senior royals. Her own team, meanwhile, is scrambling to prevent what they're calling another Meghan situation. And a source close to her spelled it out clearly. Andrew's had his chances to tell his story. Now it's Fergie's turn. So the burning question now is this. When Fergie finally sits down for that explosive interview and someone inevitably asks about Meghan, what's she going to say? Will she repeat, "I don't really know her," or will she finally reveal why she stopped pretending she did?
Many people in this world are lost. It's excruciating to live with past mistakes. It is so difficult. I always would like to change so many things in my past, but I can't. I've got to move forward, and it's very difficult to go back over them.
This is the chapter that could be keeping Meghan Markle wide awake at night. Because Prince Andrew's arrest wasn't just about one shady document or one connection to a convicted financier. No, it went way deeper than that. The search warrants stretched across 2 of his properties, and what the investigators seized was massive. Devices, hard drives, personal letters, and piles of documents covering decades of private life. Andrew sat at the center of a sprawling social network that reached from Buckingham Palace all the way to private islands in the Caribbean, linking royals, celebrities, and high-powered players most people only read about. Now every guest list, every message, every flight record tied to him is officially evidence in an active investigation. And Andrew himself, he's no longer a prince in power, he's a man stripped of titles, without a home, without royal protection, and facing a criminal charge that could carry a life sentence.
Her man serves certain no purpose. Does that sound familiar? Fergie saying, oh, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Why? Because now she no longer has the use of the title.
Sarah Ferguson is as cunning and as deviant and as skanky as Rachel Meghan Markle. She just was lucky that when she was doing all her skankiness, the internet was not around.
This is what we needed, Dan. You know, the news agenda has aged me rapidly. Like, this is what we need to see. We need to see some investigations into Meghan.
Even his own daughter, Eugenie, has reportedly cut off all contact with him. And his own brother, King Charles, won't even say Andrew's first name in public statements anymore. There's no loyalty left, no royal shield to hide behind, nothing to protect him now. So when a man like that sits across from a detective, someone who's been described by royal biographers as arrogant, entitled, and convinced the rules never applied to him, the question isn't if he'll spill secrets. The question is how fast he'll trade them for a lighter deal. People close to the investigation have warned that what the public's seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg. One biographer who spent years fighting to gain access to Andrew's trade envoy records said flat out that Andrew has never faced true accountability for anything in his life. And now, with this arrest and everything the police have seized, that's all about to change. This isn't the end of the scandal, it's just the opening act of what's still waiting to come out.
The privacy laws are pretty strong here, and that's what she used as a weapon at the time. So there were quite a few things about her personal life. I'll work them into another book, I think.
Oh my goodness, Tom Bauer. I love that deep tease right there. That's something that we can look forward to.
A former member of the royal household put it bluntly. Andrew's gone rogue and the worst is still ahead. And that chilling statement might be truer than anyone wants to admit. Meghan spent years telling the world she wasn't protected by the royal institution. She sat through interview after interview, pointing out the double standards, how Andrew was shielded while she was torn apart by the press, and she wasn't wrong about that. But here's the twist. What she didn't say might be even more important. While everyone was busy focusing on the unfair treatment, no one stopped to ask the obvious follow-up. Why did she need protection from the same story Andrew needed protection from? Different chapters, same book, and now that very book has been seized by Thames Valley Police. Andrew's phones are locked in an evidence room. His files are being combed through line by line. And 8 years worth of questions about Meghan's pre-royal past might not be whispers anymore. They could be sitting inside those digital archives, waiting to be uncovered by investigators with official clearance. Fergie tried to hint at it. Virginia Giuffre tried to make the world pay attention. And now, for the first time ever, the answers might not be buried in online rumors or fan theories. They could be sitting right there inside evidence folders, waiting to explode into the light. And this is where everything could finally break wide open. Because once investigators start connecting the dots between those files, the names, the messages, and the movements, there's no turning back. What's been buried for nearly a decade could surface in a single headline. Insiders say Thames Valley Police are quietly preparing for the fallout, because what's hidden inside those hard drives might not just rattle the royal family, it could send shockwaves through Hollywood, politics, and high society itself. For years, everyone thought this was just gossip, a distraction, another royal drama. But this time, it's not whispers, it's evidence. And if even a fraction of what's rumored in those files turns out to be true, the story of Meghan, Andrew, and the circles they moved in won't just rewrite royal history, it could rewrite everything we thought we knew about power, privilege, and who's really pulling the strings behind the palace gates. Sources close to the investigation are saying the mood inside the palace has turned ice cold. Staff who once bragged about their royal connections are suddenly staying silent. deleting old posts and refusing to answer calls. One insider said the atmosphere feels like everyone's waiting for a bomb to drop. Because deep down they know, once those files are reviewed, names will surface and not everyone's ready to see theirs in the headlines. Behind closed doors, crisis teams are already in motion. PR strategists, lawyers, and old friends of the family all scrambling to get ahead of what's coming. But how do you get ahead of evidence that's already out of your hands? The royals can't control this one. Not with statements, not with silence, not even with money. Whatever's on those drives is locked in police custody, and the truth, whatever it is inching closer to daylight every single day. The public has no idea what's coming next, but the insiders do. And that's why the tension is sky high. Reportedly, lawyers representing multiple high-profile names have started reaching out to authorities, quietly asking what might be recovered from Andrew's seized devices. That's not something innocent people usually do. It's the kind of panic move that screams damage control. Meanwhile, whispers say investigators have already flagged several sensitive communications linking royals, Hollywood players, and foreign investors, all under review. If any of it connects the dots back to Meghan's pre-royal years or Andrew's questionable circles, it could trigger an international storm. No palace statement, no controlled interview, no polished PR spin could contain that. This isn't just about scandal anymore, it's about exposure. The kind of exposure that strips away royal titles, celebrity facades, and billionaire power plays, leaving nothing but raw truth in the open. And once that truth hits daylight, there's no putting it back in the dark. Everything now sits in the hands of investigators armed with full warrants. Whatever Prince Andrew knows, whatever secrets he's been holding onto, he no longer gets to decide who finds out or when. That control is gone, and the truth is officially out of royal hands. The next headlines could rewrite everything we thought we knew about the monarchy, Hollywood, and the powerful web that connects them. So, what do you think is about to come out next? Could the files reveal names no one expected, or will this be the moment the palace can't recover from? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. This is Golden Era Evidence, where the shine fades and the details tell the truth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment if you want to keep uncovering the stories they don't want you to see.